Your bank account is sitting at $800, not zero, not overdrafted, just low enough that every time you tap your card, there's a quiet moment of anxiety before the terminal beeps. You're not behind on rent, you're not missing meals, but you are one busted tire, one unexpected dentist bill, or one "can we have a quick chat" from your manager, away from everything getting significantly worse. That feeling, it's not a personal failing. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, roughly 1 in 4 Australians say they couldn't raise $2,000 through in a genuine emergency without borrowing. 1 in 4. That's not a fringe group. That's a large chunk of the people sitting next to you at work right now. So this video is about fixing that. Not in a year. Not when you finally get a pay rise. In 60 days. Even if money is genuinely tight right now. Let's get the uncomfortable part out of the way first. Most people assume they'll start saving properly once life gets easier, once the rent goes down, once the car is paid off, once the kids are a bit older. The problem is that life doesn't get easier on a schedule, and waiting for calm to prepare for the storm is exactly the wrong approach. There's also something happening in your brain that nobody talks about, honestly. When money is tight, your brain enters what behavioral economists call scarcity mode. In that state, you focus intensely on immediate problems and almost completely ignore future risks. You spend on small comforts because you're stressed. You avoid checking your bank balance because it's demoralizing. None of that is laziness. It's a completely predictable psychological response to financial pressure. But it does mean that telling yourself to just save more is not a strategy. It's a wish. The actual strategy is designing a system that works around your brain, not against it. The target for this 60-day plan is $1,000, not 3 months of expenses, not the $595,000 that ASFA says you need for a comfortable retirement. Just $1,000 sitting in a separate account that you do not touch unless something genuinely breaks. That number is not arbitrary. A $1,000 buffer covers most of the random Tuesday disasters that derail Australian households. A tyre replacement runs between $180 and $350. An emergency vet visit averages around $400 to $600. A short notice car registration or a water bill that came in higher than expected. These are the things that currently go on a credit card at 20% interest, which is where most Australian credit cards sit, and then quietly drain your budget for the next 3 months in minimum repayments. Without the buffer, one small emergency creates a financial chain reaction. With it, you absorb the hit, refill the fund, and move on. That shift from panic to process is what you're actually buying. $1,000 over 60 days works out to roughly $70 per day. Or if you think in weeks, just under $120 per week. That sounds like a lot if your budget is already stretched. But you're not going to save this through suffering. You're going to save it by finding leaks you didn't know you had and adding a small burst of income for a short window of time. On day one, you do not need to save a single dollar. You need to open a separate account and move your emergency fund target there, even if it starts at zero. If your emergency fund lives in the same account you use for groceries and Netflix and Friday night drinks, it is not an emergency fund. It is just money, and your brain will spend it slowly and with excellent justification across 3 weeks. Open a high-interest savings account that is not linked to your everyday spending. ING, Macquarie, and Up all offer accounts currently paying between 4 and 5% interest with no monthly fees, and most of them let you rename the account. Rename it. Something clear. Something that creates a small moment of friction before you touch it. Emergency only works fine. Then set up an automatic transfer. Pick an amount that will not bounce. Even $25 per week is a start. Time it for the day after payday, so the decision is never yours to make in the moment. Automation beats willpower every single time. Pull up your bank statement and look at the last 30 days of spending. Not to feel bad about it, just to categorize it honestly. Go through every transaction and ask one question. Was this essential or was it a choice? Essential is rent, utilities, groceries, transport to work, insurance, and minimum debt repayments. Everything else is a choice. And some of those choices are completely fine, but some of them are subscriptions you forgot you had, convenience purchases made while tired, and takeaway that happened because there was no plan for dinner. The research consistently shows that most Australians are spending between $60 and $100 per week on what you might call invisible spending. Not one big obvious waste, just dozens of small, emotionally justified purchases that add up to real money. 2 Uber Eats orders at $28 each, a Spotify and a Stan and a Binge subscription, a few coffees during the commute, a quick Kmart run that became $47. You do not need to eliminate all of it, but for 60 days, you cut it in half. That alone could find you $50 to $60 per week, which over 8 weeks is $400 to $480. You are already almost halfway to the goal from leaks you probably did not realize were there. Cutting expenses gets you a long way, but if you want to hit $1,000 in 60 days with any breathing room, you need to add some income on the other side as well. Not a side business, not a long-term strategy, just one focused burst over the next 8 weeks. The highest return option, if it's available to you, is simply asking for more hours at your current job. 4 extra hours per week at the average casual rate of around $30 to $35 per hour adds $120 to $140 per week. Over 4 weeks, that is $480 to $560. One conversation with your manager could almost complete the entire goal on its own. If extra hours aren't an option, spend one weekend on a targeted money mission. Facebook Marketplace is genuinely underrated as a fast cash tool. Most Australian households have between $200 and $500 worth of items sitting idle. Old electronics, furniture, sports gear, clothes. One focused Saturday afternoon of photographing and listing things you no longer use can generate $100 to $200 in a few days without spending a cent. The third option is a single bill negotiation. Call your internet provider, your mobile carrier, or your energy provider and ask directly, what is the cheapest plan you can put me on right now? Most Australian telcos and energy retailers have retention offers they do not advertise. A 10-minute phone call regularly saves $20 to $40 per month, and that continues to benefit you long after the 60 days are done. Here is where most people fall over. They build the emergency fund and then slowly spend it on things that are not emergencies. An emergency is something that threatens your health, your housing, or your ability to get to work. That is the definition. A sale at JB Hi-Fi is not an emergency. A weekend trip that came up last minute is not an emergency. A bad week that deserves a treat is not an emergency. Write that definition down and put it somewhere you will see it. Notes app, a sticky note on your fridge, wherever works for you. And add one more rule. If you use the fund for a genuine emergency, your first financial priority is replenishing it. Not investing, not saving for a holiday. Refill the buffer first. There's a version of you 60 days from now who still has $800 in their account and the same low-level anxiety every time their phone buzzes with a bank notification. And there is a version of you who has a $1,000 buffer sitting in a separate account and knows that a random Tuesday is no longer a threat. The money matters. But what it actually buys you is the ability to make decisions from a position of stability rather than panic. That is worth more than the interest rate on the account. That is worth more than almost any single financial move you can make right now. Start today. Open the account. Set the transfer. Find the first $100 this week. If this was useful, subscribe for more Australian personal finance content that skips the fluff and gets to what actually works. And if you are starting the 60-day challenge, drop a comment below. Day 1 and your opening number. Saying it out loud makes it real.